Buckeye Nation, what is going on? Floco here, Ohio State football with Scarlet and Great right here on YouTube. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with a Buckeye friend of yours. Free Buckeye content all the time. Appreciate you guys. As you're listening and you hear something you like or you don't like, leave a comment, let us know. We have a great friend of the program on. I've gotten such great feedback from having our good friend Dylan on. Guys, I'm excited to bring him back. Dylan, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing a little better now that the game's over and we're looking on to Purdue. I think that's going to be a more enjoyable win for the fans than it was
You
last.
don't think that'll be a little bit of a slugfest?
I do, but I think it's going to be good for us. I think we're going to finally display some things now that we get back in a groove. And I think hopefully these days done some self scouting on the team, and I think that we're going to have a pretty impressive win.
I gotta say, after the Maryland game, and I'll get your impressions on that in just a second. It sounded like I've never heard Ryan Day like this. He sounded kind of at a loss. Like I don't know, something's wrong, and we gotta get it figured out. Do you think this is like the first time he's really gonna like instead of saying, "Oh, we just got to execute better," like most coaches do, just start looking inward and saying, "There's something schematically or psychologically wrong with the team right now."
Yeah, and the thing is, we've been at points in the past when under his tenure that he's had a few issues, whether it may be short yardage. I mean, things like that we haven't been able to successfully implement. And he's shown this year at times a few games, especially Western Kentucky. I know they're not the greatest defensive team or anything like that by any stretch,
They're
but
the
he shows.
85 Bears. What are you talking about?
But exactly, but it's the thing. He showed these things that really improved and had restraints against the defense and actually made them honor them, and
Hmm.
they worked. And I know, like I said, I know it's Western Kentucky, but just doing these small little things that they did then in that game, that should be more efficient than it is.
Yeah, I agree, and it was kind of surprising to hear him after he had a look in his eyes like I don't know, guys,
What's going on?
yeah, and it's like he even said at the beginning of the game when we came out sluggish, he just didn't understand it. He just didn't. There's nothing in the week of practice that would have indicated that. Dylan, let me ask you something, man. You've been studying athletes for a long time. You're a scout. You have some friends on the program. What would cause, in your opinion? What would cause a team to have a great week of practice and come out flat like that?
One, I think that no matter, it's human nature, right? After the big Notre Dame game, I know it's a week off.
Hmm.
That was an emotional victory. We were all
It
patting
was.
ourselves on the back, right? Like, I know we didn't play excellent, but it was a huge emotional win for us. And we also came off a bye. I mean, if you watched last year, our offense last year, the first and up until our bye week, was probably the best offense in the country in the last 10 years, or close to schematically wise, and looking at data. And then we came out versus Iowa. I know Iowa has a very different defense last year than Maryland does this year, but we couldn't move the ball. We looked clunky. We were just out of sorts. And I feel like it
Yeah.
was sort of the same way that we had a little bit of a hangover. And I felt that we were doing things that weren't to our best and benefit on offense that really made things really slow down and keep getting bogged down like it has been throughout the whole season so far. I think we're still learning a lot about our offense,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think we have a true offensive identity.
No,
And
we
when
don't.
we do think we start moving some things, we keep going back to the well of what has worked in the past. And like
Mhm.
McCord's a completely different quarterback. I'm just going to get that out of the way. I know everyone wants to talk about McCord.
Should he be benched and tarred and feathered?
Yes, no, he he's, he wasn't great in the first half. Like that's pretty obvious that he wasn't great.
Yeah, that's true.
He's getting pressured more than he should have.
Is he
He's
the cause of some of that though? I mean, like even the play on Fryer where he got beat around the edge, it looked to me like Fryer figured the pocket ended a little sooner than it did because I
yeah.
mean
He took
Kyle
an
was
extra
way
step.
back.
He was, however, a lot of the time, if you saw in the first half, when we starting calling deep shots, they're all half rollouts. You do take an extra step in the pocket when you're
Okay,
trying to
I
roll
got you.
out. Try to buy
So
yourself a
maybe
little more time.
Fryer misread it. You think he just misread where his depth was supposed to be?
I think that it was a combo. I mean, if
I
you
got
look at
you.
it,
Okay.
Xavier Johnson's supposed to chip him right there, coming out of the backfield.
You did say that in the group chat too. You said, oh, "Where's Xavier? He's supposed to chip there." That's
He's
what's
supposed
great
to
about
chip
Dylan,
there.
guys. Watching a game with Dylan is awesome. He'll point out those little things you just wouldn't know.
And I think that McCord should step up in the pocket. So I think it's really just out of sorts. and trying to still learn each other. I mean, Fryer's been a starter. What now? This is his 5th game,
Yeah.
like true starter, not filling in. And McCord, this is his 5th game now, 6th game. So I mean, we're really brand new. And Xavier Johnson's had one start at running back at Michigan State a couple years, like what 2 years ago.
But he's had a lot of playing time though.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I was looking at, we're calling things that are different this year as well as new things. So I mean, it's just kind of a mixture, in my opinion, of things going wrong and still feeling each other out and bad play.
So let me ask you, before we're here to talk about the run game first for me, guys. So I apologize, I'm not getting into it right this second, but when you get Dylan on the show, you got to like just dump a bunch of questions on him. We'll go to Kyle McCord really quick. Now I've said on the last podcast, Dylan, and let me tell me if you agree with me or not. I said Kyle McCord, yes, he's a young, talented, and inconsistent quarterback right now, but the red alarm is like the run game. Holy crap! Sound the alarm. Either we got to put this fire out now because it's spreading and it's getting worse. Because I think people are focused on Kyle McCord too much, and I'm thinking, okay, guys, look, I understand there's some things he needs to fix and clean up and get better at, and obviously we assume he will, going with more reps down the road, but he's gotten the job done so far. Let me ask you about the run before I get to the run game real quick. Are you seeing a good progression with Kyle McCord? Do you think he's getting better? Because the first half of Maryland game, it looked like he regressed even a little bit.
I mean, if you watch the first half of Notre Dame too, I mean, he wasn't particularly sharp. I wouldn't say he was bad. I mean, it's one of the things that same with our whole team. We start off a little slow this year. And I mean, if you watched our national championship team in 2012, you know what I mean? Sorry, 2014, you see it
I
that
just shook my head yes, like I agreed with it, because I knew what you meant, but I was like, I
yeah,
heard it took me a second. Like 2012, wait.
yeah, it was one of the things that you slowly got better. And even our 2012 team that we went undefeated, like we got better over the weeks. You know what I mean? The second half team. Before in the last couple of years, we've started out really fast. You know what I mean? We coming out of the gates 21-3, 21-10, and we scored 10 more points in that whole second half. And it ended up being a 17-point game, 20-point game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that Kyle McCord, as they start opening up the offense more and more, he's been at his best. And I think that after he's seen some things, it's all about adjustments. Our staff is making great second half adjustments, offensively and defensively. And I think McCord is really being able to dissect what he's going through and his reads. I think that he was very quick with his reads.
Oh man, I got people on Twitter telling me he processes too slow, Dylan. They're challenging you.
Yeah, he gets through his reads very quickly. That's to a detriment at times.
Interesting point of view there. Okay.
I think he goes through 1, 2 to 3. You can see his eyes scanning the field and he's nodding. Like, you know what I mean? He's going through his reads. It's not just he's sticking on.
So he's not being patient, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that he's not letting that full route develop and what they were calling.
Gotcha.
And he's going to his second read, his third read, and then check down before anything can fully develop, which I think part of it is protection. I know we've been decent in pass protection, not bad. But we saw it all practice. He saw it all fall practice in spring. He was getting blitzed on every single play and only with 4-man pressure. You know what I mean? So he knows what our offensive line was doing, and they're getting better and pass protection wise. So he's a little hesitant, and he's a first time starter. So I think he's getting better. It may not show in the first halves, but I mean, you don't keep coming back as well as he's played the last 2 weeks against pretty good teams. Maryland has 3 or 4 guys that are going to play in the NFL on defense.
Devin Brown, or is it Devin Brown is his name? D Brown.
Yeah, the safety.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be a player in the NFL for sure. Look, I agree. Would you agree with me though, real quick before we move on to the running backs? Do you think that the running game is a bigger concern than Kyle McCord right now?
Yes, I don't think Kyle McCord's item 1, 2, or 3 on the list of worries right now on our team.
Awesome, because if he's not in the top 3, then I'm a little scared. Because I mean, I'd like to say that our quarterback who's still playing pretty well is in our top 3 concerns, but if it's not, we got some big concerns. The run game, Dylan. Where do you even start with this thing? I mean, I have never seen an Ohio State team run this poorly, and I don't. Let me ask you first and foremost: we both were big fans of Kevin Wilson. His departure, are we feeling the effects of that?
I don't think so necessarily. I think, to my knowledge, I thought that this zone stretch scheme that Day is enamored with, we all assumed that's exactly what Kevin Wilson ran at Indiana when he was so successful. We didn't know that Day was thinking along the same lines, that's how he loved so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that they might, as soon as they got rid of Wilson, not got rid of him, but he left on his own. That this scheme might change a little bit, which it hasn't. And kind of like our single defense when we made Kerry Coombs run the single high cover 3 defense. He had never called that before.
Have you ever called a defense before? Period.
No, but I mean, he actually did have a hand in the Titans somewhat. But yeah, so it's one of the things that I don't think that I assumed that when when Wilson was gone, that it would change a little bit, and that hasn't been. I mean, if you look back to
is that really what Justin Frye likes to run? Because he's a run game coordinator.
No, he's a gap scheme. He likes to pull guys
and
create spaces.
Well, I mean, look, I wanted to ask you something. If we have a contradicting way to do things between Ryan Day and Justin Frye, who are good friends, part of the reason why Justin Frye is here is because he and Ryan Day are close. Why, if you're Ryan Day, why not let Justin do his thing? If you're going to make him the run game coordinator, why not let him do his thing? Sometimes it seems like we're trying to mix the two, doesn't it? I mean, there's times where
look at our defense right now. I mean, this isn't exactly what Jim Knowles wants to run. Even last year wasn't exactly what Jim Knowles wants to run. You're paying him a lot more money than you're paying Frye. You know what I mean? So I know Larry Johnson has some say in it as well, just because he's earned the respect of Dave for so long. But it's the same. It's a similar thing that if you're in my belief, you're going to actually let him run the run game coordinator position. You actually have to let him run it.
Or is it just a way to get him paid?
It's essentially.
Oh, geez. See, I hate that. I understand. Yeah. And Zach Smith said it, that these little titles are BS. I get it. But Frye has been successful as an offensive coordinator and run game coordinator in the past with Boston College and UCLA. And what we're doing now isn't working. And quite frankly, it's been spotty at best the last couple of years. And ever since Trey Sermon, Henderson has shown flashes. Miyan has shown flashes. But at times it's like, we run a counter, we run the zone or whatever, and it works and it looks good. And we're like, why don't we stick around with the get more gap scheme? Why don't we stick with that? And then we go stretch boundary. It's like, oh my God, not that again. It doesn't work.
If you look at Haskins, he was playing quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't get a yard either.
It was a struggle.
You know what I mean? Like, until Haskins ran the ball more. And it doesn't even have to be the quarterback running, right? That was just what made the offense more effective.
That's Urban's offense, yeah.
Yes, but I mean, guess who was calling that year?
I know Ryan Day was calling it, but I mean, he's calling what Urban wanted, basically, wasn't he?
I mean, that last year he gave Ryan Day a lot of cadence on what was going on.
I think he had to when you have Dwayne. You're not running JT's offense with Dwayne. So
exactly, and I think that he's seen similar issues, and he's just not adapting to them. But yes, I agree that that Frye should be getting more involved in more gap schemes. However, the thing is, when you're running stretch boundary so often, and then you mix in grab schemes, I mean, you can't do all these schemes. Realistically.
No, that's the thing. I'm a novice. You are the expert. I grant you. I submit to your knowledge on this. But even I, as I'm watching the game, will go, yeah, that was different. What the heck was that? Now you can look at it and tell me what it was, but I look at it and go, that was clearly something different. The tackles were pulling on that one. I mean, what are they doing? And then of course it's the stretch boundary. Everybody knows the stretch boundary by now because it's so infamous with Ohio State at the point, because it's so it just doesn't work ever. And
I get why Day likes it, right? Like, that's, in theory, that's a
please tell me why. Inform the audience. Why does Day like it?
He likes it because essentially you're thinking that you're having one less boundary player, one less player to the field side. So you're thinking that you're going to have an extra run number and run advantage and run gap running that way. So you're thinking that one defender.
We never do. Is it execution then? Is why we can't do it, or is it just a stupid call?
Teams are knowing what we're doing.
Okay.
So they're keeping. So they're keeping that overhang safety or cornerback, whoever is supposed to be, whoever the team defense has, they're keeping them to the short side of the field, to the boundary, and we saw that touchdown. I mean, as bad as that halfback toss that we ran, that was essentially a zone. That was essentially a stretch to the field side. Like it was a handoff. I know it was a pitch, but it was the exact same thing. That play was blocked terrible, and we still got in just because they were expecting us to run what we have been. And
To the
so
short side, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And we ran to the long. Yeah, we ran to the far side, and
yeah,
and
it was
Chip had the
essentially
speed to get on the corner. Yeah.
it was essentially a stretch to the field side is what it was, and it was just so different that we got to the edge because Chip had enough speed and wiggle to get out there.
And see, here's the thing. I will say that the new school offensive coaches. I said this on the podcast, and I still stand by it. They will. I forgot what the term is, but they will run these plays that they know will not work, but they're trying to set up other things. The McVays, the Shanahans, the LaFleurs of the world, and Zach Taylors of the world. I know Ryan Day doesn't run that offense. I get that, but I just wonder if they like. Okay, let's just beat our head against the or against the wall, so the defense kind of gets lulled into expecting that, and then we, like you said, chip to the field side, and all of a sudden, the whole defense is, well, wait a minute, that's not where that play goes. And even if it's not executed correctly, Chip can get in because of that. Do you think that's part of the philosophy with Day being a 46-year-old offensive mind?
I think that Day tries to get Day overthinks things, and
So you're saying fire Ryan Day? Wow.
No, he is. If you watch some of the play calls, they're genius, right? Like he sets them up perfectly. It's just that he runs it over and over. Teams are expecting it. If you watch one of the plays, we ran no huddle after we got a big completion in the first half, and we ran a zone stretch to the boundary. And usually, like I was talking about, you usually have one less defender to that side of the field. They had their extra overhang safety in the spot right there, right where he was waiting for it. If we would have ran an outside zone the other way or a counter, I mean, we have 3-2 linemen to their 2 linemen and 1 linebacker, so we have a numbers advantage.
Wouldn't it be nice if we gave the quarterback that leeway to say, "Hey, look at that overhang safety," and then you don't even have to do much. The personnel's there; you can flip it to a counter.
Yes, it would, but at the same time, the unfortunate thing is like I was talking about, you can't do everything in practice with how little time you actually have to practice these formation things like that. I mean, you don't want to call them against Penn State. You know what I mean? Like it might be a great change that they're not expecting it, but we saw Fryer pull into his own guy. We've seen it 3 times this year where the guy's pulled into his own guy because they're not used to it. So I mean, at what point do you? I mean, it's great in theory, right? Both ways. You want to stretch, but
that's all I have is theory, dude. That's all I have.
No, really, like it is. You know what I mean? You don't know what to do, and we're kind of at a loss. And I think we either have to go full bore running gap scheme, let Frye call it, you know what I mean, and take our lumps here and there as far as missed assignments, you know what I mean, blowing up in the backfield, blocking the run guy, if it means some more successful run plays consistently. Because right now the stretch, up until this week, it hadn't been as bad as people think as far as number wise. I mean, we were averaging close to like 3 yards a carry. Like it's not good, right? But it's not like we're running. It's not like we're running backwards and we're negative yardage plays all the time to it. And we've actually had some decently big ones. But I mean, overall, I mean, if you look at the first few drives of the Maryland game, I posted in our group chat. I mean, 5 for 25 in the first 2 drives for Chip, and they were
true. I do remember the stat. I was looking at the stats. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, they were dropping 7, 8 guys in coverage, and that's what threw Kyle McCord off. He was not expecting them to pretty much play prevent defense to him.
It's kind of what they did last year. CJ didn't have a great game against Maryland. He was good. Don't get me wrong. He was solid, but he didn't light it up. I saw his stats. I was talking to a friend of mine. It's like 246 yards, a touchdown, or whatever. And then Dallin Hayden's run game in the second half really lifted us. And Austin Ward and Jeremy Birmingham were talking about it. Like they went, they were setting back 8 guys, obviously made it hard for Kyle McCord. And then in the second half, they loaded the box, probably expecting the same kind of adjustment from last year. And yet this is where Ryan Day comes in as a good coach and Kyle McCord comes in as a good quarterback. Oh, you're gonna let us pass now? Okay. We got an alien on the outside boundary there, and Marvin Harrison. We got a really good receiving tight end. Okay.
That's the thing. Like, we made great second half adjustments, and we were actually expecting them to switch. Like, they literally changed their whole defense from the first half on what they're doing.
They thought they were a step ahead of us, basically, what you're saying.
I think they did it because they saw that Kyle McCord couldn't do it, right? They didn't think that McCord was beating them through the air that game. And, and the thing is, our stone stretch plays to the boundary and things like that. And when you run that scheme, you're expecting the linemen to get to the second level. Get their first guy, you're moving horizontally, and you're getting up to the second level. We're not doing that. Like, it's pretty obvious. I don't think we have the athletes.
Wow. You don't think Donovan Jackson's an athlete enough?
I mean, well, he's been fair the last 2 years. I mean, really, realistically,
I agree. He's been good, not great.
I mean, if you look at the last 2 years, I mean, guess who the weak spot on our offensive line has been the last 2 years?
Guard.
Donovan Jackson. Like, I think that he has potential, right? But I mean, our inside is not. People want to talk about Simmons and Fryer, how bad they've been. Like, they've actually been pretty decent this year. I mean, comparatively, which isn't great.
Simmons has his mix-ups and he screws up every now and again. But I'll tell you, when he's one-on-one in pass protection, I don't see him getting like just posterized or beaten.
No, he's been playing pretty well. He's actually pretty good in pass protection. No, not saying it's perfect, because then we saw the highlights and things like that.
No, of course he's not Paris Johnson. It's a huge drop off from Paris Johnson, obviously, but he's still been kind of okay. He's like, all right, he's not the weak link on the line.
I just don't think we're helping ourselves with our play calling. Our offensive line needs to go straight downhill. I know it was 1 yard against Notre Dame. We scored that touchdown, but we need to run straight downhill.
Yeah, Simmons and Cade Stover both blocked in and collapsed. I mean, it was like the outside defender had a clear lane to chip, and that's why he only barely got in. I remember thinking, how can we not block 10 guys? And that's why we were allowing that guy to go unblocked, essentially, to hit Chip's legs before he can get. Honest to God, Chip should have just walked in if somebody picks up that guy.
Yeah, and so I think there's also a little confusion on that. Our offensive line was confused by not having another body there. They didn't know who to block.
Wait a minute, where's the other defender at?
And I think that play calling's not really helping us per se on the offense. And I think that Ryan Day, and like what I was talking about earlier with Western Kentucky, we ran a lot of bootlegs. That's another way to account for the backside. That defensive end has been crashing home. And then the linebackers are getting to the second level easily. Like, we're not having anyone up there. So they're just being able to fill the gaps very easily. One way to account for that is either misdirection or play action and bootlegs off of that to account for that backside, which we did very successfully that game. And I saw one bootleg last week early on, you know what I mean? So I think that play calling and run scheme, as far as what type of runs we're calling, could definitely benefit. We're not going to be great. I don't see that, but I think that we can definitely improve.
I don't think we have the offensive line to be great run team.
No, I don't think you need to be great. I think you need to be good enough, and I think we're almost there in pass protection, good enough. And I think that run, if we just freeze the defense for an extra second or early on, we talk about in our group chat all the time, spread out the field. I know Urban did it a different way, but the quarterback numbers advantage, right? Read option. I don't want Kyle McCord to run the read option, but you do it to equate the numbers, right? To make sure that you have equal guys blocking as ball carriers or blockers. And I think when you spread out the field, it makes it much easier for the offensive linemen to see what's going on in front of them and know quickly for Kyle McCord, who's a young quarterback, to know where he's going almost pre-snap. Hey, I see there's 6 guys in the box. This is almost if no one comes down, I'm handing this ball off no matter what. And then you hope Trey or Chip can make one guy miss.
Trey can definitely make a guy miss.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I think that would be much easier to run it that way as opposed to try and play bully ball with two tight ends. Luke Montgomery's came in a couple times this year.
Caden Curry's a fullback.
Yeah, and I mean Curry, he got just enough of that guy. but that wasn't that good of a block. You know what I mean? Like
He's a really good defensive end, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He didn't have if he gets a good block there like Mitch Rossi does last year. I mean, he gets 3 yards on that play. You know what I mean? As opposed to just barely getting that 1 yard, he gets 3. So I think they're shooting themselves in the foot too often in the run game.
Gosh, man, I could do this all night. You're loading me with information. I think there's a lot of stuff here that a lot of people just don't know or think about when they watch these games, Dylan. Dylan, I appreciate you, man. Tell them where they can find you.
At Dylan Freeman VP on Twitter.
I'll put his Twitter X whatever handle in the description, guys. Yeah, I don't who nobody's calling it X. And but guys, you need to go follow Dylan. He provides great insight. We need to have you on more often. I know we're both working, we're tired. Last time I was supposed to have Dylan on, I think a week or two ago, and I swear a freak lightning storm comes out of nowhere. I don't get afraid of weather very often. I'm in Florida, we deal with hurricanes all the time, even tornadoes. We got our share of tornadoes, but this lightning storm was lighting up the entire sky constantly. And I got to be honest, I was like, I'm in a metal van. Let me get out. Let me go inside. I don't want to turn any electronics on or nothing like that. This is freaky. And it was so freaky. What's that?
That's your excuse.
That's my excuse. It was so bad that even the neighbors came out and talked to me about it. That's how bad it was. It was like, holy
yeah. They don't talk to you unless they have to.
They don't ever acknowledge my existence unless there's something that freaked them out, because they think I can provide answers about the weather. I guess I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's bright. That's all I got. So, yeah, it was pretty nasty. So, Dylan, man, as always, we got to have you on more, but we appreciate you, dude, and giving us some insight into what's going on with the run game, man.
Of course, Corey. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
No thanks to Johnny, of course.
No, Johnny's sick in bed, and I'll tell you, I couldn't care less. I hope he gets worse, if anything. So.
I agree.
Oh, appreciate you as always, guys. Oh, that's been Dylan Freeman. This has been Scarlet and Great right here on YouTube. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and listening. Hit that like button if you like what you see. Subscribe if you like the channel. It helps the channel grow. We appreciate you guys as always. Goodbye. God bless. And Dylan, take us out.
Go Bucks.
Absolutely. Go Bucks.